Okay, so let's talk about spreadsheets versus relational data model. So relational data model is essentially tabular data. Spreadsheets already provide tabular data. What are the differences? Why switch from spreadsheet to relational database, and how 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 um, how is a migration from spreadsheet to relational database done? Yeah. Um, In practice, you often encounter a situation where data is managed within spreadsheets, and at a certain point in time, it gets unhandy, and there is a wish to migrate it into a real database. And why is that the case? Yeah, so let's try to figure that out by means of an example. So let's assume I would like to do room management. And of course, the first resort usually, and all of you have encountered that within your work career, using an Excel sheet in order to store it. And if you look here at my Excel file, yeah, you see I have different sheets here. TA underline A, TE underline C here, D and PBH, yeah. And the idea is, of course, each of those spreadsheets here only captures the information about rooms of one building. Yeah. For example, PBH, that is the Peter Behrens house. Yeah, that is usually where your lecture rooms are located. Actually, I'm not sure if you have already been able to visit them, yeah, during to the Corona situation. But Peter Behrens house, that would be your ones, yeah. Tresco Allee A, that's the Tresco Allee, the main building, and so on. Yeah, Tresco Allee C is, and D is where the Mensa is, and so on. Yeah, so each room is captured handled by one spreadsheet here, and you see if I take a specific room, for example, the room A029, that's on the first level. It has 40 seats. It has a whiteboard, a beamer, and a sound system, and it's a lecture room. Yeah, and you see here in the C buildings there are many offices. Yeah, and on different levels, of course, and so on. Yeah, so makes sense, doesn't it? I think that is a way how you can do it, but let's discuss this solution. So so I would like to discuss the Excel solution with respect to the following aspects: understandability, integrity enforcement, redundancy, handling of large volumes of data, and analytics. Yeah. So let's start with understandability. Is it easy to grasp the information that is handled here? What do you think? What's your opinion?
No.
Yes.
Yes, I would say yes, because you look at one sheet and you immediately see the information. So if I give you that sheet, yeah, and tell you that's about the rooms, you immediately will be able to understand it. Yeah, and that's of course it's an advantage of Excel sheets. You can provide it in such a way that they are easily understandable. Yeah, so that really is a plus here of Excel solution. And Excel spreadsheets are the most used way to handle data, yeah, in companies. So they are all around. Understandability, fine. Integrity enforcement consistency. What do you think about that?
Uh, if you want to understand a single spreadsheet, I think that would be easy. But if we are navigating to different spreadsheets, they each have different contests, and that makes it confusing.
Yeah, actually, now we are talking about we are talking about integrity enforcement and consistency. And
Some of the columns have
I guess
missing an equipment and they are like blank. So
it could, for example, you could have
consultant.
missed, for example, you could have a room where the room kind is empty, but maybe you would like to have a room kind for every room, yeah?
yeah, that would make it much more simpler to understand.
Yeah. And it would provide, so if you would like to get all lecture rooms and you have missed to designate, you have an empty slot there for one of the lecture rooms, you missed it, yeah, if you search for that, for example, if it is a larger spreadsheet. If it is a small spreadsheet, it's, of course, it would be not so much of a problem, yeah. But let's look at another aspect. Would it be possible, for example, on a different sheet to have the same room number as on the other sheet? So uniqueness of room numbers, could that be enforced?
No.
Not really, yeah.
No.
Of course, you could program something in Visual Basic or so, but that would be overkill, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and uniqueness would not be enforced. What's about redundancy?
If any of the data is repeated, so then it would be a problem there.
Yeah, of course, it's redundant. You always have the string lecture room several times, or whiteboard or beamer. Yeah. And of course, you can have typos. And if you have a larger database there, yeah, much more records, and you search and you have a typo, then you might not find what you have looked for. Yeah. And redundancy usually leads to inconsistency. Handling large volumes of data. What do you think? Handling large volumes, millions of records within an Excel sheet, is it a good idea?
I guess it can be done, but it will be difficult to navigate.
Yeah, not really, yeah.
But I guess we can always like use control, like we can always find the kind of data we need in the Excel. So
Yeah, so but if you have millions of records, or a lot of records, would you
that could
think
be,
Excel is the best way to do it?
no, definitely not.
Definitely not, yeah. If you have a large um, volume of data there, that definitely might be a problem, yeah. And analytics. So let's assume I would like to figure out the average number of seats.
I think the functions inbuilt in Excel which helps us to do that.
I can do that, yeah. But of course, I have
You'll
take into
have to
account that
manually.
it's on different sheets.
Uh, then maybe we could use something like VLOOKUP or some functions like that. It could be difficult, but I mean, it
It
could
could be
be.
done, of
Uh,
course.
Could be done. We
The-
could merge all 4 sheets data into one and then do
yeah,
the calculation, I
we
guess.
could use your unique IDs to do the same.
Number of seats, no, that you can't do. For example, if you're doing everything is in one sheet, but that might hinder understandability. Yeah, if you put everything in one sheet. Of course, that could be done. Yeah, you could do everything in one sheet in order to calculate the average in one way. But let's assume I would like to figure out all rooms that have less seats as the average of rooms of all seats. So that might not so much be a sensible requirement here for room management, but for different situations that might make sense. So if I would like to have all those records that have less number of seats than the average number of seats, not so easy to do, isn't it?
It can be done, but it's quite complex to do it. Like in an Excel, it
Yeah.
could like 2-3 functions to reach to the.
So of course you can program everything in Excel. It could be done, yeah, but that would be quite hard, especially if I would like to have all rooms that have less than the average number of seats and that have a beamer. I would say that would blow your mind doing that in Excel because you would have to dissect the equipment column because you have a comma separated list of things. Yeah. So I would say, so I assume it would be okay to say that for such kind of more complex analytics, Excel would not be the best way to do it. Yeah, it could be done, but it's not so much of fun to do that. Okay, now having done something in Excel in such a way, and that usually is done, but having seen that integrity enforcement, redundancy, handling of large volumes, analytics might be a little bit complicated. Now let's try to understand what it means to migrate that thing here into a relational database. And now it's something that looks, first of all, it looks completely different here. And we are going to dissect everything here in order to understand what we have here. First of all, please only look at the here the non-filled boxes. So the center parts here: building, room, equipment kind, room kind. Yeah, all of that are tables in structural representation, and we have some errors here that depict foreign keys. So first of all, you have Shavi, you have already mentioned that you, in order to calculate, for example, the average, you would like to combine all these things here into one large sheet, yeah. And actually, a similar thing is done in the relational model because each sheet represents one location here, one building. Sorry, yeah. We would introduce a table that's called building, but in that building table we would not put everything here from the rooms into it because buildings and rooms are different concepts, so they should be separated. And therefore, we only would keep the columns name of the building and the location of the building. Yeah, actually, the location here is more or less encoded here. TA, that's the location here, and WH, it's also a location here. Yeah, but that could be now be put here into a location column. So we would have a table with 4 records: number 1, 2, 3, 4, building A, Tresco Allee, building C, Tresco Allee, building D, Tresco Allee, building PBH at Wilhelminhof. Yeah, and that's the building table. And that's only comprising the concept of a building. And now that's an important thing when migrating information from an Excel sheet into a relational database. Not everything that is within one sheet here automatically, not every sheet here, sorry, automatically gets one table, but it might be separated among different tables because we have to represent different concepts. And the point here is that equipment types and room kinds and so actually are considered as different concepts that are related to rooms, but are not directly part of the room. So we would have a table that's called room kind. And there we would only have 2 records here, or as many as records as we have room kinds. We would have lecture room, PC room, and office was also there. I think I forgot it here, yeah. But we only have, for each room kind, we have only 1 record here. So lecture room is only captured here once, only stored once. In contrast, whereas lecture room here is repeated many times. So there could be there's no way that you could have 2 different records where the writing of lecture room is different, because all of the rooms here refer to the same, via the primary key, to the same room kind record. And if I change the room kind record here, it immediately is changed for all rooms that are related to that. Yeah, so that there could be no 2 ways, 2 writings for lecture rooms. Yeah, for the concept lecture room. Of course, I could introduce a room kind ID 3 and call it also lecture room, but that would be immediately visible that you have duplicates here. So you wouldn't not have duplicates here, but then your room don't have the description lecture room again in it. But let's defer the room a little bit in order to complete the other things. The same pertains to equipment kind, whiteboard, beamer, sound, and so on. Also here we have repetition, many repetitions and so on. And also here we could devise our own equipment type table where we have beamer in it and whiteboard in it and so on, and further one equipment types if they are available there, yeah. And now having these descriptive elements in their specific tables, rooms would refer to them. So for example, if we look here at the room table, so we have the room ID. Of course, these primary keys are added. They are not part of the Excel sheet. They have to be added here. But then we have the room number here. For example, A29, 029. So we have the room number. For example, here, if we take a record 1, A29. Then the level is also taken from directly from the Excel sheet. The number of seats is also taken directly from the Excel sheet. But the equipment is completely omitted for the time being, and the lecture kind is the room kind is captured as a foreign key, and the connection to a building must also be captured by the BID by a foreign key. So if we take a look at this record here, we see that it's a lecture room in Tresco Allee. So if we take number 33, what is it? What kind of room is it? Where is it? So in which building, to which building belongs it, and what kind of room is it?
It's in building number A, and then we can say it's on the 2nd floor.
So what kind of room is it?
PC room.
PC room.
See,
Let's take 97. What is that?
It's lecture room.
lecture room.
It's a lecture
Which is-
room, and where is it located?
PBH the Villanov.
Yeah. So you see how it works?
Yeah.
So we now have spread it among different entities here, among different tables, and connected it via foreign keys. So now let's turn our attention to equipment. So if we talk about equipment type that could belong to a room, could a room have many types of equipment?
Yeah, it can.
Of course, it could have a beamer, it could have a sound system, a whiteboard,
Could have a projector as
and
well.
so on. Could an equipment kind, I do not mean a specific equipment, but an equipment kind, like a beamer, be in many rooms?
Yes.
Yeah, it can be possible.
Of course, many rooms could have a beamer. So what we have here is a many-to-many relationship between equipment kinds and rooms. Yeah, this is a many-to-many, and now we see how that is represented. So please look at the equipment table. The equipment. So this is so the room table is not directly connected with the equipment kind. So here in the table, the equipment kind information is directly related here to the room information, but in the relational data model, because it's a many-to-many relation, that could not be done, or that should also not be done, but because it would be wrong to do that way. So the room is not directly connected to equipment kind, but we have a additional table, and that's called equipment. And this table, as you see, has a primary key that consists of two columns, namely a foreign key column, key ID for equipment kind ID, and RID, a foreign key to the room. And both of them together are the primary key. So now we have the situation that a column is a foreign key as well as a part of a primary key. You see, I haven't depicted the name here on the arrow. That's because the names are equal here. I've chosen them as that they are equal, and you immediately see that foreign key, that key ID of this column here refers to that column here, and RID refers to that column here. It's immediately visible because the names are the same. So now you might have already seen here that nasty little 2 here, yeah? There's a room with 2 beamers. How could that be handled? And that could be handled quite easily now, because we could add a quantity column within the equipment table. So taking here the real data, what does it tell us? Which room, which equipment, and which quantity?
Lecture room with one demo.
So maybe we should start with the room number. Which room number?
A029
A0929
with one beamer
with one beamer.
and one quantity. Yeah.
Yeah. This one here, what is it?
030 with a beamer of 2 quantity.
2 beamers in A30, yeah? 030. A030, 2 beamers, yeah? You see it? The third one?
Room A029 with the 2 equipment kind, and a quantity of beamer is 1.
And what is 2?
That beamer.
Whiteboard.
A whiteboard.
Entschuldigung. Sorry. Yeah, 2 whiteboard and 1 beamer.
Yeah, and now you also see this many-to-many relationship. For example, room number 1, beamer. Room number 1, whiteboard. So we have a room with 2 kinds of equipment. Yeah. Then room number 2, beamer. Room number 1, beamer. So we have a beamer that is in 2 rooms. Do you see this? That this is the essence of this many-to-many relationship?
Okay.
So what is the essence of what I have shown you here? First of all, I've started with with the management of certain kind of data here about room data within the Excel sheet as it usually is done. Yeah, you separate the data on different sheets and so on. Yeah, you have specific columns and so on. Then we have discussed the pros and the cons of this kind of thing. And in practice, if you have started to manage data of a certain complexity within your company with an Excel sheet, sooner or later you will reach the point that it will get unhandy doing that in Excel, and therefore you might to migrate it into a real relational database. And what we have seen is that turning such kind of model here, although it is tabular, nevertheless might lead to a complete different structure within a relational data model in order to support this one concept, one table idea. And what we will see during the next lectures, that now we get the full power of analytics, much more beyond what we have discussed before, yeah, and that would be could easily be done with SQL on basis of this relational data model, which could in no way be done in a similar way on this Excel sheet basis. And we also have all this kind of integrity checking here.